We're into Hardwire, our second series of the day here. Top right-hand corner, it's our yellow Zerg, playing for XCOM and HEO Esports. This is ELAZER. Oh, I went too early. There we go. Just lag.
Hey. And for Storm Gaming, the mech god himself getting the Swift 2-0 in the last round. It is GUMIHO.
I think I like the most is that the first one gets more time. The second one gets less time. And there's no real good indicator one way or the other how it pans out. So I just one of the funny things here. I mean, big shout out to Snoopy, who is running our observing today. I mean, he is an outstanding human being, and he does a really, really wonderful job observing. And it makes it easier for us, right? Because then we just get to like sit here and hang out and talk StarCraft.
Yep. I mean, the really nice part is, yeah, as you said, we just get to do our job, which is watching this and commentating. Because let's be honest, we're not the best observers. I'll be the first to admit it. My observing is not the best. It's honestly pretty bad. So it's nice that we have Snoopy here because he's quite competent in his observing. It's actually a really, really good manage to catch. I mean, all the important stuff, and so it makes it a lot easier for us to focus on the actual intricacies of the game. For instance, interestingly enough, GUMIHO here, I believe this was this a CC first? This was a command center first, right? Look at the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I saw the two guesses and I was like, wait a second. But yeah, GUMIHO went CC first on Hardwire, which is definitely not the map that you would expect that to be on, but has gone for that. Then you have the barracks and double gas follow-up because he knows that you're going to have to try and catch up on the tech, so he wants the faster factory off of it. And this kind of, I like it from GUMIHO, you know? I think a lot of players, they end up trying to be too safe sometimes in matchups where potentially they're more confident. But GUMIHO is just saying, you know what? Screw safety. I actually just want to be as greedy as possible.
Yeah, it's a high-risk, high-reward situation, especially with this one, because if you're GUMIHO and you do go for that command center first and the laser isn't coming across the map with like a 12 pool or something particularly aggressive, I mean, he just absolutely like benefits from it. Because now by the time ELAZER is able to scout this with an Overlord, or even like with these individual Lings that are admittedly getting a really nice read on the map, I mean, ELAZER's not going to be able to respond appropriately. His Ling production is going to stay rather low. Yeah, he's going to get in here and, he won't even quite get up the ramp, so he doesn't even know that the production buildings are behind. But again, it's too late to deal with it anyway. So now GUMIHO just gets a big advantage on that worker count. He's staying dead even on the workers, 28 to 27, and that's always going to benefit the Terran player if they can stay even on workers against a Zerg player, because mules are just really nice addition to the economy.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. He's even adding on a third command center. This is... I mean, it's just really cool to see from GUMIHO. He says, listen, I know that ELAZER is not usually a super aggressive player. ELAZER will pull out roach timing attacks, but he doesn't usually pull out, like, the 6th roach timing attack at 5:30, you know, or at 4 minutes. You know, that's not the ELAZER play style. He will refine a really strong timing attack in the mid-game that has a comfortable macro position behind it. And so GUMIHO is just saying, well, you know what? I'm confident in this matchup. I'm going to go for a very, very quick 3 CC. And this is even faster than the usual. Is going to go into Cloak, so there will be Banshees as a follow-up. And a Viking is on the way as well. You know, and it's just, there's not really a lot that ELAZER is going to be able to do for right now.
Well, the creep spread is already started here. The Cloak Banshee, as you said, on its way forward here in the production tab. ELAZER's got to start getting a better read on what's happening here. He's going to see the Viking start pressuring his forward Overlord, but I fear that ELAZER's going to use that as a means of saying this is going to stay really normal macro, and I think it's anything but. It's a very aggressive economic stance here that's kind of working out really well. GUMIHO's landed his third before the 5-minute mark as well, and now we're going to start seeing that production start kicking into gear here. Some barracks are going to be coming up. GUMIHO's going to try and strike here with a nice little 7-8 minute timing, and Lazer's going to be careful that he doesn't fall apart just because he wasn't aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, this is, you know what we call this in the show business, Rushi?
What do we call it?
We call this a macro cheese, where you're pretty much saying to your opponent, listen, this build, if you counter it, you will win. If you go for a quick pool, I'm going to be absolutely screwed. However, if you don't, I'm going to be in such a strong economic position that it's going to be extremely hard for ELAZER to try and do what Zergs like to do, which is get to a really high worker count and then start to overwhelm the Terran. GUMIHO's just going to have more than ELAZER's expecting. And I'm sure that ELAZER does have a kind of an idea what's going on. He saw how that the command center was done, that the orbital was done. He might have an idea, oh, that seems like a little bit quick. But he has not scouted really anything to let him know that, in fact, this was CC first, that that third command center is already down on location, and that behind us, GUMIHO is getting into stim, +1/+1, and is just going to start producing an insane amount of units.
Well, I think something's got to start turning here for ELAZER. He is losing the supply advantage that he's got. I mean, this amount here, even just like being within 15 supply of each other, benefits GUMIHO in a big way. So ELAZER now finishing up his Spire. It's about 3/4 of the way done. He is going to get centrifugal hooks on his Banelings that will definitely secure some Mutiling Bane. He's going to find a way to deal with this, though. Lings are in a nice position. They're going to be able to get a pulse around on those Hellions, which is super, super helpful here. Even dropping the auto turrets here, the Raven not finding as much damage. And ELAZER managed to really deal with that well, only losing one drone. He did lose a Queen, but that, I think, is a huge win for ELAZER. He would more than rather sacrifice a few of those Zerglings in his army rather than lose some drones.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that those Hellions were not able to dive into the mineral line, they were doing such a good job of denying creep spread. And even with that, look at ELAZER's creep. He's actually been able to keep it going. You know, he's been doing a great job of replanting these tumors, despite how active GUMIHO is being with that Raven and those Hellions. They're not allowed into the mineral line. You clean them up. Overall, it's just generally a win here for ELAZER, who now has those Mutalisks out onto the map. This Raven is extremely low, and so can be sniped by the Mutas unless they just go straight across. Look at that bottom right-hand corner. You're going to see them try and dive into the natural, and there's really no anti-air available for GUMIHO aside from his Marines. And if you don't have at least a missile turret up to help anchor that defense, these can start to get a lot of damage done.
And GUMIHO has kind of overlooked this here. The Marines are on their way out, but that's going to allow ELAZER just enough time here to really punish this natural mineral line. 5 workers do end up going down, 7 in total, as the Mutas are going to now bounce up into the main base. Yeah, that tower's not going to be built. It actually did get killed off, so that is a nice little grab here, killing off a few more of those workers. ELAZER does have to be careful, though. GUMIHO really in the hunt for those Mutas, but cannot undercommit the amount of Marines here to really push this off. So now all of a sudden 13 workers get taken off the top. ELAZER is able to capitalize on his lead a little bit more, and he's building himself a little bit of buffer time to get that 1/1 upgrade rocking on his Zerglings here. That +1 flyer attack as well going to be really, really important, but look at the worker counts here, Titan. 94 to 65, that's a much better position for ELAZER to play from.
Yeah, I mean, with this one little muted backstab, ELAZER has been able to get this game into the position that you usually expect the Zerg to be in, but now, I mean, GUMIHO's coming across the map. It's 102 army supply of Terran, and it's mostly just Marines and a few tanks. I mean, there's no Widow Mines, and that's a bit of a worry, as right now, GUMIHO's going to be relying completely on his ability to split these Marines, focus fire the tanks, and be able to find the damage as the Mutalisks are not committing in across the map. Here we go, Bane's rolling in, a nice pick off with the medevacs. He's going to save a lot of those Marines, but the tank is going to go down.
Ooh, yeah, he's going to be able to get that. I was like, there should be enough DPS there for those Mutas to deal some more damage, and 13 workers getting cleaned up once again. ELAZER keeping GUMIHO on the back foot here. The +2 is a little bit exposed. I don't know if ELAZER will want to try and harass that down. No, it doesn't seem like it. GUMIHO has enough of those Marines dedicated back at home, but to ELAZER's credit, that's a lot of army that's not pushing across the center of the map. So ELAZER free to continue harassing here. He's going to be able to jump on top of another turret here. We're going to go above 30 worker kills. ELAZER's just got to be jumping for joy. He just needs to connect with this army.
Oh my, there's so much rolling through here for the Zerg. GUMIHO had to try and force it to happen. I mean, the Mutalisks just got too much damage done. And despite the greedy macro opening, ELAZER just absolutely dismantling it. GUMIHO loses so much. GG is going to be called. ELAZER. All it takes is one hidden muted transition.
I'm like, okay, we're getting the transition into the lobby screen. It's going to be great. We got like another 30 seconds to kill. I was going to shout out a sponsor, and it was like, no, we're in the game. We don't mess around here at Alphax. So
we go full speed all the time.
Yeah, it is nonstop action. Speaking of nonstop action, exclamation point, Laser in the chat. Laser.gg, one of our outstanding sponsors here for the King of Battles 3. They came up with some really cool, like, virtual trading cards. Sushi was showing it to me, and we got a chance to see the trading card for the casters, which I am on. I am excited for you to be on it next time. Because
am I?
I believe it is Kozan, Beowulf, and myself, which feels bad at this point because you're going to be working the main event, not me. So I'm like, there's going to be a great Photoshop of just like your face over top of mine. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to make it happen. But definitely check that out. There's a lot of really cool things taking place with our sponsor, laser.gg. Click the link in the chat. They do card drops. I think all you have to do is like sign up with your Twitch account and chat, and that's it. You can collect them. And there's like rare cards, there's super common cards. It's basically Magic the Gathering, but your favorite StarCraft 2 people.
Yeah, essentially that is how it goes. Nothing too crazy, but it's pretty cool. Excited to see you guys on there. That's gonna be fun. I didn't know that was happening, but that does make me a little bit more excited for it. As you know, it's always awesome to get sponsors like this where we are able to give something back to the community for watching the streams, and of course being able to continue to support StarCraft 2. You know, being able to continue to support everything that's going on, and you put even more money into these events because, you know, everyone enjoys it. You know, these events, they are really awesome. The fact that we've gotten so much support and that there's so much, you know, like ESL points actually on the line, it's just really awesome. So definitely check out all of the sponsors of this event.
All right, so we're about at the 3-minute mark here, game number 2, and really not an outstandingly interesting opening here for both players. Both players setting up with a pretty standard macro opening. This is about the most interesting development here. Is GUMIHO going to move across the map with a handful of these Marines? Now, with speed finishing up for Zerglings at a pretty standard timing, I think that's going to be important to keep track of because they'll be able to overwhelm these forces if ELAZER is able to produce the way he needs to. But I think GUMIHO might just try and harass this third base down, see if he can get a cancel.
Yeah. You see these few Marines pushing out. There's not a lot of Lings on the map just yet. The Queens are going to come on over, and really you're just looking for a decent amount of damage. You might be able to snipe the Queens, but you're just looking to really apply some harassment, as it looks like those are 2 Hellions pushing on into the natural base to find some drone kills at the same time. Nice. Can't block there with the Sword Crawler Morph, and GUMIHO not going to really get anything with that. You lose 2 Hellions, you kill a Ling. Not exactly the trade you were looking for.
Yeah, I mean, ELAZER was all over that defense, getting on top of the protection of the one drone that was very low in a really good position, and GUMIHO now loses a little bit of that momentum. ELAZER has exactly what he needs, and this is kind of what I was talking about earlier, where ELAZER gets his Ling speed at a pretty normal time and could potentially punish GUMIHO for getting a bit too far forward with these aggressive units. Stimpack not done just yet, and I mean rightfully so. It's only the 4.5-minute mark, but GUMIHO really needs to try and find some damage, and this is how he's going to try and make it happen here. Medevac going to go up into the main base, but it will get spotted. But ELAZER's supply blocked. He doesn't have the opportunity to build additional units right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit annoying. You get a bit of damage there, lose a Marine. Force response, and so far it's just gonna be 9 more drones on the way, and that's where it might get a little bit worrisome here for ELAZER. You of course have quite a few Lings, but it's a lot of Hellions here. They're gonna try and find their way into the third base. Queens are in position, and ELAZER, I mean, it's close, but it just had enough units to hold on, and that's really how Zerg wants to play this. Is you just hold on. You keep enough units around that you're able to hold back whatever the Terran is throwing at you while you're macroing up, and then when you need to deal with the timing attack, when you need to deal with the big push, you swell out a massive amount of Lings and Banes, and, you know, whatever your, I mean, tech choice is, lurkers have not really been kind of the flavor. We haven't seen as much of them in ZVT lately, but the Mutalisk has definitely been a very popular choice.
Well, it's a rather late lair for a laser, so if he is going to go into more Mutaling Bane this time around, that is going to take a little bit of time to develop into, but he's in a good position with his worker count. He's 69 now to 50, a nice position for him to really settle in at. But GUMIHO doing now what he needs to gain back a little bit of his momentum. Is starting to pick off a few of these lings here and there. Did distract the fourth base from moving to the right-hand side of the map. Is now going to be placed in the 12 o'clock position, which I think for GUMIHO is a bit of an advantage, where he can kind of utilize the rocks to park some tanks behind, get a really nice position with the lesser chance of being overwhelmed. But it seems like GUMIHO still wants to stay on this right-hand side here. He's going to scan down a little bit of the creep, start picking off some of the creep tumors that are living out there. But third base is going to start settling in, some banelings being morphed in, and these lings that actually had some pretty nice positioning here. Going to get a lot of damage down on these Hellions.
Yeah, unfortunately, the banelings actually should be kind of forfeit here. The Hellions can chase them down. There are Marines to support, so GUMIHO not going to commit any further to that. But the one really good thing for Terran about this fourth base that Laser has been forced to take is the fact that it's a lot easier to split the map. As the Terran, once it gets to the mid-game, you want to have two separate armies really pushing against Lingbane, because Lingbane is at its weakest when it's split. Lingbane is super strong when it's a massive swell of Zerg that's able to collapse onto an army from two angles. But when you split the map, when you have two armies on either side pushing, the power of it suddenly just goes down so much. And so I imagine that's what GUMIHO is going to start to look for here as he continues to macro up.
Well, he is starting to get a little bit of a positional power here on the right-hand side. Is pushing back that creep spread. The transfuses are starting to come out as well, so utilizing those. Oh, it was actually some pretty decent splits there to try and protect as many of those Marines, but GUMIHO still focused on the right-hand side here. Needs to really push this back and start forcing out the transfuse energy on those queens so they can't replace all of those different creep tumors, and he does need to be a bit careful here. The Baneling speed is now finished up. 1-1 still a little ways off. Nice little run by of Zerglings here for ELAZER, but GUMIHO now is poised to strike. More transfuses coming down, and ELAZER's going to have to act on this army here very soon.
Yeah, he needs to collapse in. These queens are getting low on energy, and the tank position is honestly quite deadly. You still have Marines that are back there in order to help defend. As here we go, the ban is going on, but look at that tank target fire. One tank goes down, but almost all of the banelings are gone, and now the Hellions here to support. The queens are low on energy. They're going to start to go down. I mean, there's so many of them, but it doesn't matter when you don't have that transfuse energy, because that's where a lot of their standing HP comes from. And GUMIHO is going to be able to push this position down. He's already up 20 supply, and look at that, another attack into the fourth base at the same time. And ELAZER just falling apart at the seams right now.
Well, and GUMIHO's been able to do this with mostly just Marines and the one tank covering from the rear, and picking off as many queens as he had is a great spot for GUMIHO to try and push into, because now the supply is going to swing a little bit in his favor. 1-1 just about to finish up here for ELAZER, though, so he is going to have a little bit stronger pushing power to try and defend and get this army off of his back on the right-hand side. But now a drop on the left also going to cause some problems. That's going to force a lot of units on opposite sides of the map. Here comes a nice little wraparound. The Ling's going to get on top of all of the tanks, and that is going to pick things off, but it will be a doom drop into the main base.
Yeah, it's a bit dangerous here from GUMIHO as both. The other drop has been cleaned up, and I mean, right now ELAZER has so much money because he hasn't been able to use his inject larvas on his queens. So there is still, a lot of chance here for the Zerg to continue to stabilize in this game, but you definitely need a little bit of time to do it. You need to be able to get these injects off. You can't be using all of your energy on transfusions, and you need to get that queen count back up, especially as GUMIHO cleared up the creep on this right side of the map, and right now comfortably on 3 bases, 62 workers. Is going to continue to try and push, but here's the worry. Right now, ELAZER has gotten a very large amount of Lingbane, and with the limited amount of splash damage that GUMIHO does have available, if you step too far, if you overcommit, there is a chance that ELAZER finds a wraparound and is able to completely clean up GUMIHO's army.
I think that's where the possible upgrade count might come into play here, but GUMIHO is settling in on the right-hand side, needs to try and push these queens down. They get so low. The transfuses continue to come out here. Units on the bottom left here trying to cause a little bit of chaos for GUMIHO. GUMIHO is going to be a bit supply blocked, but I don't think that's going to be a major issue. Picking off this fourth base would be critical damage for ELAZER. He wants to try and prevent that, but no, he won't be able to. That is going to be a third base. That is forfeit, and GUMIHO will be able to start pressuring up further on that right-hand side as the creep is going to continue receding one by one. But the big news here right now, there's no 2-2 on the way. GUMIHO is going to start falling down an entire upgrade path if he's not careful and doesn't get that started soon.
Oh, Banelings, the splits though from GUMIHO are good enough. Still takes a lot of damage from it. Almost managed to avoid most of the damage in time, but not quite, as the Queens are trying to fight the Marines straight up, and that's not what you want to do. So many Lings have been pulled across the map for a single medevac, and when really that threat is not that big, but look at these constant Zergling run-bys. This is how ELAZER has been able to stay in this game, is with these run-bys. If this is oh, the denial! Melee attacks level 2 goes down. That's a massive pick-off here for GUMIHO.
I think that ended up being okay for ELAZER. It's not a terrible thing to lose the attack over the melee, the Carapace. The Carapace is good because that's going to allow him to at least stay alive against those Marines a little bit longer, but still very, very crucial for GUMIHO to try and keep that upgrade imbalance as close as possible, as he has still not started his own 2-2. I'm not sure if GUMIHO has forgotten about it or if he's just been so hyper-focused on keeping this aggression going on the right-hand side of the map. I think both situations are very likely at this point, as ELAZER trying very, very hard to stabilize here, but he doesn't have a very good answer to this army in the third base right now.
I mean, the crazy part is right now, GUMIHO, he's focusing so much on just unit production. I don't think he has the money available to really focus on upgrades. These Liberators, though, are getting so much value at this base. They're being able to, I mean, get rid of larvae. The eggs are now going to go down that are hatching units. That means that the 5th is going to fall. It is a 4-base Zerg once again. Mind you, though, GUMIHO is still on 3 bases. This is actually fine for ELAZER, as long as he's able to hold on. If he starts to take any more damage, though, with GUMIHO taking his own 3rd, that's where it starts to get a little bit scarier.
And GUMIHO is going to continue to relentlessly push here on the left-hand side. Liberator's going to start getting some really nice pickoffs on those Banelings, some free shots, if you will. This is a better situation for ELAZER, though, getting a jump on all of these workers here. 9 more workers will go down. The third base has to be evacuated once again. And it seems like ELAZER is just moments away from stabilizing, but then GUMIHO able to just drive the knife a little bit deeper, as he just cannot be pushed off here. The tanks on the right-hand side dealing a decent amount of damage. Are the Queens going to be able to even go far enough forward to really pressure those tanks? I don't think they will.
Yeah, this position, I mean, GUMIHO has had it set up for so long, and still it's so annoying. All these Queens are stuck in the main. And again, the one thing is GUMIHO is taking so much damage across the map. ELAZER has been amazing with the counterattacks. Oh! GUMIHO manages to pull back a good chunk of the Marines in time. Still not the best trade. The tank stays alive. And this counterattack absolutely deadly. But look at this. GUMIHO blocks off the tank. Should have reinforcements coming through in time. And here we go. The Terran trying to create a sandwich here. He's going to try and get on top of this third base section off the Zerg. The Liberators do need to siege on up. Not the best siege from them, though. And the army is split up from GUMIHO. I mean, both players here so low on their supply. GUMIHO just trying to make this work. It's still pretty much a 3-base all-in from him.
Yeah, and it's actually almost 2-base, because GUMIHO has been like consistently not mining from that third base for quite some time. Oh, those Queens just a little bit off creep. Remember, new patch, those Queens cannot heal themselves if they're standing in between and there's no creep. So something to keep an eye on here, as tanks will finally get cleaned up here on the right-hand side. ELAZER's got to be breathing a sigh of relief, as he is going to lose his 4th base once again. GUMIHO trying to limit his opponent in any possible way, but look at that gas bank. ELAZER's got so much gas in the bank, he's going to lose this base at the 5th base once again. The 4th base is on the way, but GUMIHO still is not in a great economic position either.
Yeah, I mean, right now, GUMIHO with 33 workers is just trying to get this third base up and running. Has 4 CCs, though, and that's why he's been able to keep up this production, is with those mules. Has just had so much to work with. Finally, though, it looks like the pressure's going to let up. ELAZER is trying to reestablish his 4th base. This counterattack is going to get chased down. But this game, I mean, Rushi, and so many times I thought, oh, GUMIHO's winning. GUMIHO's, like, so far ahead. Some great target fire there onto the Banelings. GUMIHO's, he's making the push work, and then ELAZER gets counterattack damage. Slips a few lings in, gets 3 SCVs at a time, gets 4 SCVs the next time, then 13, then another 12. And he's kept GUMIHO's worker supply so low that he's actually stayed in this game, shockingly.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a wonderful job of continuing to stabilize, and both players really working hard to stay in it, but this is going to be a deadly moment here. All the queens are off creep. There's no transfuse available. Half of those queens immediately get picked off before the banelings are able to rush on in and defend. What a terrible moment here for ELAZER, but GUMIHO capitalizing on a transitional moment here. Does have to pull his units away from the third base once again. Is going to start at +3 as well. ELAZER, or both players sitting 2-2 rather, as ELAZER trying to find a way to stabilize. Losing that many queens for almost no exchange has got to be a terrible moment. Look at those Baneling. Look at the Baneling bomb here. Is ELAZER going to make it connect here? He absolutely will. He takes about half of the army. He gets revenge for his queens. This is going to be more damage here. Those workers are actually going to be mighty exposed. The Liberator, though, doing his best to try and pick things off. 10 workers do end up going down. It's just back and forth chaos the entire time.
This game is absolutely insane. Both these players just everywhere at once, as it's 22 workers left for GUMIHO. He has these Liberators set up, but even with that, has taken so much damage. The queens, though, once again, they're exposed. There's nothing to protect them. The high energy queen being targeted. And GUMIHO doing such a good job just finding damage. He's managed to deny mining at this 5th base. It's just, I mean, hammer blows being thrown either way is now into the mineral line. This is so exposed. 9 drones go down. The hatchery is going to get focused, but here the lings are. And GUMIHO should have to pick up, is going to try and focus it down. Should just be able to get it.
And he's going to dive into the main here as well. He's not done with his push. These medevacs have so much energy on them, and they are going to continue to fight for the Dominion as he is going to try and get additional damage down. These Banelings should be able to clean up a little bit there. The medevac does get picked off, so that's going to be helpful here for ELAZER, but we're back dead even once again. It's almost dead even supply. GUMIHO has a significant amount more army as he continues to push across the map once again, but ELAZER can't afford to come off a creep right now. He needs to stay back at home and defend against these units that continue to come across the map for GUMIHO. I don't understand how GUMIHO has been able to make this work on such a low economy. 23 workers, Titan. 23!
The power of mules, Rushi. The power of mules. As honestly, at this point, I actually think GUMIHO needs to stop producing medevacs. He's actually using so much money on them when he has so many available. Is going to finally start to get back in the tanks. And look at this, +3 infantry weapons start up, but these SCVs are exposed, and now this is where it starts to hurt for GUMIHO, dropping below 20. He's going to need to make this push work. He's going to try and knock down this 4th base. And if you can find this 4th base, then maybe suddenly GUMIHO has a position to win this game from. He does have that 3rd base still available. He does have mules. I mean, it looks like this is going to be it, though. All of this aggression, all of the damage that these players have thrown against each other. It's going to come down to this one fight. As here we go, GUMIHO has to pull back. The tank fire is being targeted incredibly well. And the Marines, they're behind the tanks. Most of the Banelings are going down, but the surround coming through. Where are the medevacs? Going to have to evac most of these Marines. The focus fire, not quite there. I mean, trying to fight as much as GUMIHO can. The +3 doing so much work here.
Yeah,
GUMIHO!
This is not a fight that ELAZER wants to take here. Losing these queens could be a critical error.
What?
ELAZER had an advantage, and now he's going to just lose all the queens. He stabilizes on his economy, and now the base is going to fall. Are you kidding me?
+3, Rushi! Did so much work there for GUMIHO. The healing, the Marines able to survive. Now there's a tank, and suddenly it's all coming down to this push. It's 13 workers for GUMIHO, but he's making it work. The singular Marine will finally be cleaned up there on that ledge, but another base goes down. And both players are below 80 supply, and we're still in the game.
This is a slugfest. This is an absolute slugfest between these two players. They just will not relent at all. Great coverage here by the Liberator, and GUMIHO still has a sizable force across the map. He has 66 army supply. Look at the units lost tab there. Lasers had to give up so much to keep GUMIHO from closing out game number 2, and he has to be able to hold this together. GUMIHO is on the hunt, though. He moves the army here to the right-hand side. He knows that that base has got to be resetting up. Those banelings, though, so dangerously close. Oh, that's actually going to have to be floated away. So that works out. Doesn't quite find it. Does get the scan and is not going to give us the content baneling, or will it?
Still more setup here for ELAZER. He knows that he needs to find... Oh, no! GUMIHO! Oh, the scan! It still takes so much damage. The army supply is still almost double here for GUMIHO as ELAZER manages to snipe the 4th command center, but doesn't matter because the army's falling across the map. The last queen goes down. GG! GUMIHO wins game 2.
You have got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. What an amazing back and forth from these two players. Whoo! Just what a fun low eco game. I think sometimes we get lost in the sauce a little bit, especially at the pro level, where we see these giant economies get built up and we watch these players run tier 3 units at each other over and over again, and we start seeing like tactics and stuff come into play, and that's like really interesting, fun StarCraft to watch. But I think that's a perfect example, that game, where a little bit of grit, a little bit of moxie, and a focus on your low economy strategy created for a really high octane game. Both players really had to sweat that one out and absorb a lot of blows while giving the same amount back to their opponent. And whew, I mean, that I think at any point could have gone either way for throughout the entirety of game number 2, but GUMIHO does come out on top. Are we gonna see the same kind of scrappy game in game number 3 though?
Honestly, I don't know if I would be able to keep up with that if that happens, but I am excited. I mean, it's going to be such a fun time, this game 3. I really don't think that it's going to be anything else than amazing as GUMIHO. I mean, I really feel like GUMIHO has been just like steadily getting better, you know, since he returned from his military service. Of course, that's how it's been with a lot of players who have returned. They've been kind of coming back. They've been reclaiming, I think, their form from when they left. You know, you're looking at like Hero, you know, is now suddenly one of the best Protosses in Korea, if not looking like the best. And you have GUMIHO, who's starting to play some really awesome games, really mix up his strategies, be able to find some great success there. I'm trying to remember the others off the top of my head, but I cannot quite. Or Classic, you know, Qualified.
Yeah. Well,
and it's
No, I was gonna say, one of the things that I think is interesting about that is not only do they have to kind of return to form from being gone from serving in the military for a decent amount of time, but they're coming back into a StarCraft scene that is seeing reduced opportunity. And I think it's reduced opportunity for the better. I mean, smaller amount of slots available for GSL means that the players that make it in to Code S are at their absolute peak form. So now not only do you have to make sure that you are playing at your own top form, getting into the meta, but now you have to beat out people who have been around for the last couple of years. And for the Korean scene, I think that's going to show some really, really unique development over the course of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be great. I think we're going to see a lot more competitiveness, especially at the top level, with how much it's kind of being squeezed with how many people are going to be able to participate in these events. As we do have GUMIHO once again looking for this small Marine push out here. Is going to be able to not quite get that link, so having like, what, 1 HP. But we'll try and get a bit of damage onto this third base. And we saw actually, you know, with the previous game, how much value that bit of damage onto the third hatchery got done, where it meant that it was a lot easier suddenly for GUMIHO to push it down and to find the kill onto it, and that made the world of difference. Being able to do that really was what was able to swing his game in his favor. It was being able to get the constant hatchery kills.
And this time around, GUMIHO is taking a bit of a different path. Not going to delay his upgrades by an insane amount for sure, but it's an early armory. I think Hellbats are going to be coming across here with, or at least potential for Hellbats, as Banshee going to be queuing up. We're going to see Banshee Cloak, a little bit more standard, but I think this is going to be markedly a little bit more aggressive this time around here in game number 3. GUMIHO doesn't want to take any chances.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, that was a close last game. You know, you can't really say that it was comfortable for either of those players to win that game. It was so back and forth. As this is a nice little drop here into the main, actually. The Hellbat getting a lot of value. Not finding too many worker kills just yet, but the Queen has already gone down. And you have the Hellions as well poking at the front. And this is just annoying. I mean, it's causing mining time to be lost. 2 drones go down, and this hatchery is actually getting some damage done onto it. And even though you don't get those worker kills, this is actually quite a bit of damage in just the mining time lost.
I mean, putting a lot of damage down onto the main hatchery, no less, creates a little bit of an interesting conundrum for ELAZER. He's got to pay attention to his main just a little bit more because of this exact opportunity. Very easy to see a few of those Hellions get dropped into the main base, and suddenly you've got a big issue on your hands. But ELAZER wants to take the fight back to the opposite side of the map. He knows if there's this many Hellions, that means the tank count is going to be rather low, and at this point, it's exactly 0. But the Cloak Banshee going to try and get some additional damage. Does get picked off here, and there is a bit of a problem here at that front wall. It's enough that he's going to be able to defend, but he wants to try and get some additional damage done as well, and he will continue to find those drone kills. Titan 5 and possibly more counting.
Yeah, great job there. The Hellions managing to find just a few drones. Keeps the front of his base solid, as these Hellbats are actually going to be morphed in. They're going to try and walk on through, but they're already very low health. 2 of them should try and be picked up at least, but the medevac is already low. GUMIHO just going to go for the Ling trades and does find a bit of value, but he's been committing so much to this aggression, I really can't say that it's been entirely worthwhile. You're seeing there just in the resources lost. GUMIHO actually behind right now.
And this is trying to build itself into a bit of a bigger advantage, but GUMIHO's not really finding it. It's 90-69 right now. Not as nice of a position as he'd like to be in here, as ELAZER is going to finish up his lair. I wouldn't be surprised to see that Spire go down as well. With the particular timing, he's benefited from being able to be very mobile on the map, and with Curious Minds, that advantage is no less important here. Impact going to be finishing up as well for GUMIHO. Additional barracks coming into play. The Baneling Nest is rather delayed here in this game number 3 compared to the first 2 games. So ELAZER will be able to get those mutas out, but he's going to be double dedicating gas in a couple of different directions here, and that might prevent his aggressive playstyle from hitting as early as it maybe needs to. But I think he's going to put down a Roach Warren as well. Looks like he's just going to try and prepare for everything.
Yeah, I mean, usually this is how it kind of goes. I mean, the Roach Warren, if you're just getting it defensively, will actually go down around 430. At the later end, 420 is usually around that timing for just the defensive Roach Warren. But this time it looks like ELAZER's actually going to be preparing to have both options available to him. Can go into the mutas. I imagine that's going to be the immediate unit that he goes into for that muted backstab. But then the follow-up potentially will be Roaches, as you have Widow Mines on the way. And on a map like Curious Minds, Widow Mines are just very, very good. There's a lot of places to hide them. And in general, you just see a lot of Terrans because you can split your army a lot easier on this map because there's so much open space. Having those Widow Mines be able to burrow means that you can get quite a bit of value while you're kiting out the Zergus. There we go, 12 mutalists on the way, and still ELAZER has over 1,000 minerals in the bank to be able to produce Roaches and Lings to help with the defense when GUMIHO does eventually find a concerted push across the map. These 2 Banshees still going to be skirting around the vision, and we'll have to see where those mutas do end up going. Because, I mean, in game 1, that was what won ELAZER the game.
Yeah, it was absolutely the tactics of surprising his opponent. I don't know if GUMIHO is going to be that shocked to see mutas this time around, but finding a way to deal with this army is going to be really important here for ELAZER. He's just going to bring the mutas right up to the main army. He doesn't want to even mess around with the surprise tactics here in game number 3. This Banshee is going to be able to pick up this base. Whether or not it gets canceled is kind of up for debate at this point. I think a couple of mutas there. Oh, it did get canceled last second, but immediately put back into place. So ELAZER does keep a little bit of momentum there. Oh, nice mine shot getting onto those mutas. No critical damage, but it does make those mutas a little bit more vulnerable to death if they do dive in, and that seems to be the case here right now, as GUMIHO will have a bit of a better time here defending with those Marines.
Yeah, absolutely. Already has Thors on the way, has the missile turrets up by the time the mutas are across the map, and this is absolutely the position that you want to be in when mutas are out. You don't want to be surprised by them, as 6 drones do go down. There was a Widow Mine drop that we saw make its way across the map earlier, and look at that, 12 in total falling. But, I mean, there's so many mutas available right now for ELAZER. I believe they've actually gone up to potentially above 20. And that just means that we should see a few more missile turrets go up. We should see GUMIHO play fairly defensive. This is not a position where you're going to push out onto the map. Nice snipe there onto a muta. But really, realistically, you're going to pretty much macro up, because your army that you can build as the Terran here is just so much better. You have the counters. You have Widow Mines for the Ling Bane. You have Thors for the Mutalisks. And then the Marines as the base of your armies. Again, this Widow Mine going to get another kill. But right now, GUMIHO is just going to macro up comfortably, and this is absolutely the right call to make.
Well, and that was a big reason of why GUMIHO slipped away in game number 1, is ELAZER was able to get so many great shots on GUMIHO's mineral lines, really reduce his worker count, constantly pull workers off of the worker line. And that's not happening here in game number 3. GUMIHO is doing a much better job of a dedicated defense, and to your point, just making more concerted efforts to keep units back at home to prevent those kinds of damages from happening here. Now, the mutas are still going to be able to find a bit of really good damage. There's a little bit more dedicated defense here with the turrets. Oh, those Thors getting dropped in. The hot drop there. Oh, those mutas got so low. There's still plenty of them there, so they will be able to fight another day, but it's going to be a little bit of time before they're able to heal up again.
I mean, name a more iconic duo than GUMIHO and double Thor drops, as he is almost able to get rid of all those mutas. Baneling's rolling in here. Trade for one Widow Mine, not the best, as we're going to see GUMIHO finally come forward with his massive push, but just look how much Ling Bane there is for ELAZER. It doesn't matter, though. The splits already from GUMIHO are extremely good. He's not pushing forward too much, but the mutas are back across the map. Units are going to be peeled off to deal with it. The Baneling's now going to commit on in. The Thors trying to tank up are immediately picked on up, and GUMIHO really doing a great job of just setting up lines of defenses so that he can retreat back to while he's pushing down this Zerg. And this is, I mean, GUMIHO's playing this push so well right now.
Yeah, it's a very slow, methodical shove forward here. The Spine Crawlers are going to make that a little bit more difficult to try and deal with. Baneling's trying to find those Marines. They are just a little bit off creep. A great amount of target fire does limit the amount of damage that those Banelings are able to do, and that's going to allow GUMIHO to shove forward here. That 5th base is going to start being pressured down. The Thor's being brought to the back a little bit. One does get picked off, and that is a good position for ELAZER, but he needs to be able to stop that army. Meanwhile, on the opposite side of the map, he is still getting a decent amount of damage. Units finally getting picked off as well. It's just chaos across the map once again.
As the mutas are still alive there, but I think a lot of them have actually gone down. The missile turret, I think, has stayed alive, and that means that GUMIHO is going to continue to push this location. Widow Mine burrows again. The Thors are still alive, and that means, of course, you have that massive tanky unit. As here we go. ELAZER committing on it. He wants to try and clean it up, but the boost out. And going to retreat back to these Widow Mines, meaning that ELAZER can't really chase this down comfortably without losing so much of his army.
And not having any of those overseers with his main army is proving to be a complication, as he is continuing to take additional damage in regards to those retreating Widow Mines here. Units going to try and find some connections, but those Marines are just always able to get away. They've just been so greased up by the Terran player that they're able to wiggle their way out. Drones are going to start falling here. ELAZER supply is plummeting 156 to 130 here. ELAZER losing his base once again. This is starting to become difficult damage to recover from.
I mean, ELAZER still has 5 bases, but it doesn't really feel like he does, because his army has just been diminished by such a massive amount. And as you said, I mean, these stim packs must have canola oil as a special ingredient, because these Marines have been able to avoid damage by the slimmest of margins. As 2-2 does finish up for ELAZER, but guess what? 3-3 is already almost done for GUMIHO, who's on 4 bases, is just continuing to produce more and more Widow Mines. And ELAZER, he's getting into Mutalisks, but the Mutas, they don't really have that strong Ling Bane base to really, distract the Terran army. There's not enough Ling Bane, I think, to really allow these Mutas to get the damage done that they want as the Widowmines burrow, and all the Banelings are gone. That means that all the Lings are not going to be able to fight, and I think that for ELAZER, this is a very, very slow death sentence that GUMIHO is putting onto him.
Losing this base is going to be an unfortunate amount of damage that it's going to be difficult for him to try and recover from. The Mutas are going to do their job across the map and try and get some more damage done in mineral lines, but it immediately has to get pulled to the bottom left-hand corner so that they can deal with the Widow Mine drop. Another base ends up falling again here for ELAZER. GUMIHO has so much army here to be able to shove forward. The Baneling count is painfully low. There's 17 in production now, but he needs them right now. He can't afford to let this army go back and regroup as GUMIHO effectively supply maxed right now. He's got 131 army supply. He's almost double the army of his opponent.
And there we go. It's going to be called GG. GUMIHO will advance. ELAZER taps out, realizes there's not really much use in playing that game out much further, and that means that GUMIHO is going to advance. He's going to be playing up against Bunny for a TVT. That's going to be an incredible match.